I'd like to call to order a special meeting of the Frankfurt Plant Board on Monday, December 11th, 2023 at 3 p.m. in the community room. This meeting is in lieu of our regular meeting, and the reason it's a special meeting is that this is, we're doing it on this date as opposed to next week. At this point, Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Member DeLong?
Here.
Member Cuban?
Here.
Member Mason?
Here.
Member Snyder?
Here.
Member Mitchell?
Here.
All members are present. We have a quorum. First item of business is public comment, and I'd like to go and announce for the record that the agenda shows that Senator Williams was going to be here today, that he had asked to address the board today. He has advised us that due to a conflict that he's currently presenting to the City Commission this afternoon at the same time, so he will not be here. He has been invited and accepted to attend and speak at our regular scheduled meeting in January. We have also asked to speak to the City Commission in January to present our concerns regarding his pre-filed legislation. So, but he will not be here today. Do we have anybody else signed up for public comment?
No, sir.
I think Anne Marie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You want?
I didn't see it. Okay,
Yeah,
you ready?
sure. Yeah. I don't think you need an introduction, but if you want to go and introduce yourself for the record.
I will.
Okay.
Yes. So good afternoon, everyone. I also expected Senator Williams to be here, so I've written this kind of in answer to the things he would be saying, but I think we're all aware of pretty much that, and I'll go from there. But I'm Anna Marie Rosen, former board member and also former chair of the board. I want to thank State Senator Williams for taking an interest in Frankfurt. I realize the majority of his District 20 constituents reside in northern Kentucky, and only a fraction of his time can be given to service here in Frankfurt and Franklin County. The proposed state legislation to ensure the sale of FPB Telecom is destructive and a bad idea. I believe that selling any part of FPB would be a disservice to the community of Frankfurt. It would be short-sighted to see telecommunication assets of FPB be sold for at least 5 significant reasons. The first one being, the telecommunications business segment of FPB has a long history of importance to Frankfurt. When television was introduced, cable was required due to the geography of Frankfurt and Franklin County, as capturing a signal could not be effectively done with a simple antenna. Owning a cable service was important then, and the value of local ownership of cable and internet services is equally valid today, or vital today. Number 2, Cable 10 is an intricate part of FPB and is a critical service to the community as a beacon of local sports and general community news. This would not be a priority under an ownership of a large company. Number 3, like other small businesses, FPB has local employees and makes financial expenditures here in the community. This money feeds back into Frankfurt. This is something that wouldn't happen with a larger company coming in from outside. Number 4, selling a community asset is short-sighted. The large amount of money paid to purchase FPB Telecom would then be charged back to the ratepayers. So it's a hazardous situation. In addition, rather than ratepayer dollars being put back into improving operations, profits would go to the pockets of executives and stockholders outside of our community. In conclusion, the proposed legislation will, while a seemingly broad perspective, pertains only to one municipal utility in the entire Commonwealth. Amazingly, it seems that this bill is focused decisively on FPB and with the goal of undermining the finances of Frankfurt and Franklin County and the Frankfurt Plant Board. At present, the City of Frankfurt is the owner of FPB. Our voices are heard through discussions with FPB board members and the City Commission. Selling FPB Telecom means a loss of equity, a loss of community-focused service, and the loss of local control. I respectfully request that Senator Williams and the legislature uphold the belief in community-made decisions, not implement this bill, and allow Frankfurt to continue independent governance. I should mention that my husband, Richard Rosen, is giving the same presentation at the City Commission meeting following Senator Williams' presentation.
Okay.
So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, and thank you for your support. Appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome, John.
Next item is consider approving minutes of the November 14th, 2023 special board meeting. Everybody should have that in their packet. If everybody take a look, and if so, do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes adopted. Item 2.2, consider approval of minutes for November 29th, 2023 special board meeting. If everybody's had a chance to look at them, do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
We have a motion to adopt. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes are adopted. Item 3.1, consider accepting the financial statements for the month ending November 30th, 2023. Mr. Denton.
Yes, good afternoon. We are just concluded our 5th month of the fiscal 24 year. So in your board packet, starting on page 19, we have all of the regular statements, financial statements for you, the statement of net position, various cash and investment schedules, our debt schedules, statement of revenue, expense, and change in net position for all 3 divisions and all of our admin departments, and then check registers for our 2 main active checking accounts. You'll notice on our balance sheet or net statement of net position, not much change from October, and that we are within budget parameters on our statement of revenue, expense, and change in net position. So not a lot different from last month. I'd be glad to answer any in-depth questions you may have, but pretty standard for the first 5 months of the year.
Do we have questions for Mr. Denton?
I make a motion, we accept the financial statements as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Financials are adopted. Mr. Denton, would you want to present the audit performed by Blue & Company for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023?
Yes, sir. As part of the statutes that form the plant board, KRS 96-185, we're required to have an audit by an external certified public accounting firm. The board has retained Blue & Company to perform the audit for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. We have with us today Alan Norvell, the director at Blue & Company that was overseeing our audit. He is with us today on Zoom and is here to present the financials, or I should say for the audit report. So I'll just go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Norvell.
Thank you, David. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
So good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I have a few things highlighted to go over with you. And if David, may I share try to share my screen?
Yes, we can make that work.
Okay. Let me know if that's working.
Yep, we see it.
Great. Okay. So first off, I'd just like to say thank you to the board. I always like to start these presentations out with expressing our appreciation for the opportunity to serve as the auditors for FY23. So I want to thank you for that opportunity. I also want to, before I forget to do so, to thank the staff for their assistance throughout the audit. So I know audits are always a major interruption on their daily routines. So we appreciate their assistance. And I usually like to point out if there's anything that's overriding to the audit that we're getting ready to go through. And for this year, generally things like new accounting standards. And there was a new accounting standard that all governmental entities are having to implement this year if it's applicable to them. It's GASB statement number 96 on subscription-based information technology arrangements. The acronym is SABITAS for short. So I'll point out a couple of places that has been implemented by the plant board in these financial statements, and I'll point out a couple of places where. So with that, I'll get started. The statements are as the fiscal year end for the plant board, which is June 30th of 2023. See that's indicated there on that page. And then if you would turn to page 1, which is the third page of the PDF. And the first thing I wanted to point out there is the opinion. And that's second paragraph of our report. And it reads there, I have it highlighted on the screen for you. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly the financial position of the board and the respective changes in financial position and cash flows for the year then ended. So that is what you are looking for. That's an unmodified opinion. That is a clean opinion on the financial statements. And I have just a couple other things that highlighted in this report to bring to your attention, and the pace will pick up a little bit. First, you'll see fourth paragraph is an emphasis of a matter paragraph, and that references that new accounting standard that I just touched upon. So this is the first place that you see something different related to that. And there's just an emphasis of a matter paragraph to inform the readers that the board did implement GASB statement number 96 on Sabitas. And then going to the third page of the auditor's opinion, which is 5 of 54 of the PDF, we have that in front of you. Two paragraphs there I just wanted to point out, always point out in these presentations. In addition to the basic financial statements and then required note disclosures, there's a couple of sections of supplementary information. One part is called required supplementary information, and the audit standards are different for this supplemental information. So the key takeaway from this paragraph is that the required supplemental information, which you'll shortly see is management's discussion and analysis and some information related to pension and other post-employment benefits. We're not required to audit that information under the auditing standards. We perform limited procedures on that to be sure it's just not inconsistent with the audited information. That's the takeaway from that paragraph that I have highlighted in green. And right below that, highlighted in yellow, refers to a couple of other sections of supplementary information that is included within the report. And that has to do with combining statements and budgetary. Beg your pardon, I didn't have my phone muted. I apologize for that. Supplementary information related to combining statements and some budgetary comparison schedules. And this we are required to audit. And that's what this sentence here says, that in our opinion, that information is fairly stated in material respects to the basic financial statements as a whole. So with that, our pace will pick up a bit as we start through this. Right behind that is the management's discussion and analysis that continues on for about 6 pages. This is management's opportunity to expand upon what is provided in the historical financial statements and the note disclosures, and they can provide more context around year-over-year changes, things of that nature. Our responsibility with this is 2 things. Number one, there are only certain things that can be addressed in management's discussion and analysis, so we make sure that that content is covered and that it's not something beyond what's permitted to be discussed there, and again, to be sure that it is consistent with the audited information. So that continues on for a few pages there. That in terms of the format, similar to what has been presented in the past. And then you get to page 12, and this is the beginning of the audited information. So just a couple of things highlighted here for you. First off, it's a comparative presentation. So there's 2023 and 2022. So it's a comparative presentation in the basic financial statements. When we get to the note disclosures, you'll only see 2023 information. So that's why this little subheader is up here at the top with summarized financial information as of 2022. So you have the 2022 in the basic financials, but not in the note disclosures. So I mentioned that new accounting standard. It has to do with subscription-based information technology arrangements. Here's the asset that got recorded. Not a really big number, particularly related to the plant board and the total number of assets as a asset-intensive type entity, but there's 367,000 that got recorded. A corresponding liability related to that of about 182,000. Couple other takeaways on this page. At the end of 6/30/2023, for financial reporting purposes, for external financial reporting purposes, you are just shy of 200 million in assets and deferred outflows of resources. So 199. Total liabilities and deferred inflows were 77 million. So that the net position at 6/30/23 was 122 million. That's the statement of net position. The next page is the statement of changes in net position. Key takeaway here is the change in net position during the year was an increase of approximately 6.4 million. You began the year right around 116 million in net position and ended the year with a little over the 122 million that I just pointed out on the previous page. Page 16 is the statement of cash flows, and there's just some numbers here that I typically like to point out that the key takeaways from this statement. I'll blow this up a little bit if you're trying to follow on screen. The first number I have highlighted is net cash provided by operating activities, positive 16 million. There you can see in the 2023 column. Net cash used by capital and related financing activities was approximately 19 million. Net cash provided by non-capital financing activities, which is for the most part related to those subscription assets and liabilities that were new this year, as well as some non-operating revenues. That was approximately $1 million in cash provided there. And then the net cash used by investment activities during the year was approximately $11 million. You can see there 10.8. All that adds up, a change in net cash during the year of a decrease of about 12.7 million. Began the year with 20.5 million, ended the year with 7.7 million. And after that page, we get into the note disclosures. Really nothing significantly changed for the first few pages. Note 1 is the accounting policies, other than the subscription liabilities that we've talked about with some language added related to that. We get to page 20, note 3, a disclosure about adopting that new GASB standard 96 is included there. And then moving on to page 22, again, just the nature of the operations. I think this is one of the key note disclosures that are in the financial statements, the capital asset information. I'll just blow this up, but if you're trying to follow on screen, but this just rolls forward the capital assets of the agency from 6/30/22 to 6/30/23. You have the cost of your capital assets and then the accumulated depreciation. So moving on down through the notes, oops, excuse me, wrong button there. The next note that I wanted to point out to you is note 8, which is the beginning of some of the pension disclosures. And the reason I point this out is there's not a lot of this that's actually under your control as a board or as governance or as for management. Most of this, of course, benefits are set by statute. A lot of the assumptions from the standpoint of actuarial assumptions are determined by the board of CERS, working with their actuaries. And then the targeted investment allocations and targeted returns and discount rates and things of that also are determined by the board and management of the CERS. But despite the fact that there's not a lot in this that you or your management team has control over, there's still obligations to disclose that information. So that carries on for several pages. So starting on page 25 is pension-related information, and that carries on over to page 33, and then OPEB information, similar information is disclosed there. Information regarding assumptions that are used, the statutorily defined benefits, the investment targets and allocations and targeted returns, all that information disclosed here, as well as what the plant board share of both of those liabilities. And so that continues on for a few more pages. We get to page 37. This is a new note, note 10, for the subscription-based information technology arrangements. And again, this is of course new for the current year. See it reported there with numbers that tie out back to those similar numbers on the financial statements that we looked at earlier. And then we get into that required supplementary information that is pension. So after we've already gone through about 12 pages of note disclosures that are related to pension and OPEB, we have another 4 pages of supplemental information that's related. 2 pages to pension, 2 pages to, about 5 pages to pension contributions, and then about 4, I think, related to OPEB. The key takeaways on these pages would be on, back up a page here. This is page 39. The key takeaway here is that the plant board made its statutorily required contribution. There was the amount that was required, 3.7. We made those 3.7 million, so there's no deficiency to report there. And the same is the case a few pages over when you look at OPEB. Again, the statutorily required contribution, that amount was made, no excess or deficiency to be reported. And then moving down, here's the supplemental information that is audited. And this is first off the combining statement of net assets, or net position, excuse me. And these amounts that are in the total column will agree back to the basic financial statements. Reduce the size for a second. A little too far. And then there's a combining statement changes in net position. So this agrees back to the basic financial statement as well for that. Then there's a schedule of operating expenses, budget to actual, and these numbers are again subject to audit. Blow that up so you can see what a little bit of that looks like. But a budgeted a column, the actual, and then the variance, whether it's favorable or unfavorable, is listed there. And we're about to the end. The last 2 pages is, because this is a governmental audit, we're required under government auditing standards to report on 2 things. First, on internal control over financial reporting. And so what we're referring to there is external financial reporting, which is the document we've just been through. And so what you're looking for there is the very last sentence here, that during our audit, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be material weaknesses. So that's what you're looking for there. And then at the top of the next page, the second item that we're required to report to you on is compliance with laws, regulations, contracts, grants, etc., that could have a material impact upon the external financial statements. And so what you're looking for there is the last sentence of that paragraph. The results of our test disclosed no instances of non-compliance required to be reported under government auditing standards. So that's all that I had to go over with you on the financial statements. I also have just the required communication with governance, but before I move to that second document, I will pause and ask if there are any questions. This is a draft document at this point. The last step is just this is pending the approval of this board, and then we'll be ready to issue the final reports. But any questions for me before I look at the document, the second document, the required communication with governance?
Any questions for Alan? Okay, Alan, you want to go on to the second document?
Yes, sir. Thank you, John. So the second document is the required communication with governance at the end of an audit. I've gone through again, and similar to the financials themselves, I'll highlight just the key takeaways for you. First off, we again have to communicate with the board that the plant board did adopt GASB statement number 96 on those subscription-based information technology arrangements. So that's what's covered there. Below that, we're required to let you as governance know what we think are the material estimates that could have significant impact upon the financial statements, and we've identified 3 similar to years in the past. liability and all those actuarial assumptions that go into that. Given that the plant board is a capital asset intensive organization or agency, the useful lives for capital assets would obviously have a significant impact upon the financial statements, and then the allowance for doubtful accounts. So those are the three areas. Other things that were required just to communicate to you, no difficulties encountered in completing the audit. There is a schedule of waived adjustments at the last page, which I'll just go over with you in just a moment. There's a reference to that here. No disagreements with management. We will get once the board does approve these reports to be issued, we provide management with a template of a management representation letter, which they'll print to the plant board letterhead, sign, and return to us. Not aware of any consultations with other accountants. And as far as other matters, just again, a reiteration of what I said earlier, we are not required to audit the RSI, which is mostly the pension and OPEB liabilities, as well as the management's discussion and analysis. But we are required to audit those combining statements of net position, revenues, and expenses, as well as the budget to actual schedules that we touched upon briefly. So those are audited, and we do provide opinion on those in relation to the financial statements as a whole. And then moving to the final page, and the final thing to bring to your attention. This is an adjustment that is waived within the financial statements. And I'll give you just a little bit of background on this. If you remember from last year's audit, there was a waived adjustment related to participation in a insurance trust with, I believe it's the Kentucky League of Cities. David, you can correct me if I'm wrong. And that was recorded, hadn't been recorded last year, was picked up and recorded this year and allowed to self-correct through the current year financial statements, as opposed to reporting it as a prior period adjustment. So the reason that that option is available to allow it to self-correct is because the effect of $108,000 is not material to the current year statement of revenues and expenses. And by the end of the year, the balance sheet is correct. So for those two reasons, this would be well below what would be material thresholds related to the financials. So that's how it's been handled from an accounting standpoint. It's been allowed to self-correct itself in 2023 through the 2023 financials. So I'll stop there and stop sharing my screen, but I think that has covered everything that I intended to go over with everyone.
Any questions for Alan on the second part of his presentation? What's the next step then, David?
We are asking the board to accept this audit draft, and if you accept it, we will, Katrina and I will sign the management representation letter, get that back to Alan, and they will issue the final audit reports, and then we'll be on to 2024.
Okay. Go around. Does anybody have any other further questions? If not, do we have a motion? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's adopted. Audit's accepted. Alan, thanks again, sir. Is this Alan's last year? They have one more year they're eligible for.
I believe if the board so chooses that we have another year at
Another-
least
yeah.
to move forward. So we'll be coming back to the board requesting an engagement letter for the 24 fiscal year.
Okay. Alan, thank you and your team for all your work.
Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Mr. Cubine, I'd like to thank every staff member that has
Yeah.
a hand in the procurement process. I mean, if everyone that were touching this process weren't diligent in following out the procedures and the policies of the plant board, we wouldn't be able to be at this point. So
Right.
I just appreciate the hard work and dedication of our team that works to be true fiduciaries of our customer owners' money. And a special thanks to Katrina for being the project lead on the audit. So thank you.
Well said. Thank you, sir. Thank your team, too.
Yeah, will do.
Next item is informational item, department reports. Mr. General Manager?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, first we're going to have Cassie Lindsay to have public information.
She always comes from that side door, you know.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for coming during the day. First thing I want to say is that Kathy Jennings out of our department always heads up our United Way effort, and we were able to report that we collected $10,450 for the United Way this year. We had a goal of $10,000, so we exceeded our goal. We were very excited about that. Our employees are always very generous, not only with the United Way, but with any efforts that we put together that are charitable to our community. So I just wanted to say congratulations to our employees for, again, going above and beyond, collecting $10,450. I'm going to be real quick because it's hard for me to talk right now. So I just want to say that some things we have coming up. We've been asked by the city, the state, and we working with KET. We are going to cover a couple of the inauguration events tomorrow. We'll have a crew over at the breakfast at the History Center. That's something that tourism hosts, and they asked if we would come over and cover that. So we will be there tomorrow morning. And then the worship service is at First Christian Church, and we will be working with them as well. They record their services anyway, and we play them on Cable 10, so they're going to do that. And we're going to have their feed for the worship service tomorrow for the inauguration. So those are two events that we're helping out to cover tomorrow for the big event, the big day of festivities. The other thing we have going on is that we did have the parade. The Christmas parade was canceled or postponed last weekend. It will be this weekend. We have trucks that are participating. They're going to get all decorated this week. We'll have them participating, and then Cable 10, of course, will carry it. Hopefully I'll have my voice back by then. I'll be hosting the parade. We'll have the trailer up behind the Capitol. Again, we're partnering with the governor's office because we will also cover the state tree lighting and all of the events they have back behind the Capitol on that evening. And that Saturday, Christmas parade, I believe, kicks off at 6, and we'll come up Capitol Avenue and then around the back. And again, they'll have food trucks there. It's a big event, and Santa will be there, and they'll light the tree. So we're always happy to participate in that, and again, partner with the governor's office to get that done. It's a big event for Frankfort, and we're happy to be a part of it.
You might mention the big one last week. Who put up the Christmas tree?
Oh yeah, we did have our. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder.
Oh,
maybe I'll let Russ talk about that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any questions for Kathy? Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Chairman, next is our NOP Director, Darren Rumble.
Good afternoon. For November, it looks like the NOC entered 386 trouble calls. We took a total of 2,615 phone calls, and the locators did 555 locates. We're down a little bit in November, slowing down just a bit. So the total so far this year is 3,197 locates since July 1st. So everything is busy as usual, but nothing else to report unless you have any questions.
Any questions for Darren?
No? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, next is the customer service. I think David is going to step.
Yes, I'll be covering customer service. You can see through the month of November, we touched almost 2,000 customers throughout the month. Wait times are approaching that 1 minute on our tier 1 and 2, and a little bit longer service on 3, but those are the calls that take much longer to handle. I'd like to kind of really point out a point of appreciation to our customer service staff. It was just a week ago today, it was December 4th. We had a really busy day with having cycle 2 disconnects and cycle 1 past dues. We had in the office 171 customers that were served by 9 CSRs and had over 718 phone calls and almost 300 cashier transactions. So that's almost 1,200 interactions with a staff of about 11 in the office. So they just continue to impress in one day. A lot of that is payment arrangements that we have. We used to just do 2 a month, but now since COVID and we got on the payment arrangements for all the past due COVID balances, we've really extended that to allow payment arrangements for those that need them every month. So that has created a lot of work, but we're continuing to automate and do some things to make that better. But I just want to just kind of bring that up. It's a stat that I'm really impressed about. You know, while some investor-owned utilities are closing their offices, we continue to offer superior customer service in person and any way really our customers want to interact with us. So that's where we are through November.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for David?
Mr. Chairman, next is our telecommunications superintendent, Adam.
Good afternoon. Your report's on starts on page 107 with customer penetrations. Everything looks good there. Page 108 is a trouble call, which it's below average, and we've seen that the last couple of months, which is good. So page 109 and 110 are the outages for the month. We had 3 outages. 2 of them were fiber related, and actually it was contractor doing work that actually damaged our fiber. We're overlashing to the same plant, so we can have accidents happen. We got those repaired. Then we had a blown fuse in the Willowcrest subdivision. Next band, we're placing fiber on Stedmantown Lane area. We're doing some splicing in Spring Hill. The underground contractors finished up. They are gone. There are 2 small bores they have left to do, and they're going to come back and do that probably in the spring later on. So, but they're officially done, so that should help out, and hopefully we can get everything else moving. And
So when will Spring Hill come on?
I don't know. We still have finished splicing and testing, so it'll probably be February, end of January, middle of February, something like that.
Okay. Okay. Any questions for Adam? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, next is electric department. Ross Cotter is the superintendent, and Travis Cobb, director.
Thanks, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Board. The electric department departmental reports begin on page 111 of your board package. You can see our e-reliability IEEE statistics for the month of November. Our SAIDI numbers for the month are 44.302. Flip over to page 112. You can see the chart for that breaks those down. 113 also lists the causes for those outages with a total of 30 interruptions for the month. And then page 114 breaks down the top 10 outages for the month as far as customer minutes of interruption, with a total of 790 customers affected for the month. And I'll be happy to entertain any questions you have about that.
Any questions? John?
The 2 big Bell Point things, were they the same exact homes back to back, or was it 2 different areas in Bell Point?
No, sir. It was the same exact outage back to back.
Okay.
What it was, we had that happen first thing in the morning. The crews went out. They spent about 2 hours trying to find the issue. We have a set of standards that they'll go through before they re-energize, and they were not able to determine the cause.
Okay.
So it actually tripped the substation breaker. So we closed that back in. So it involved Bell Point, Ball Knob, Benson Valley, everything that was fed off that breaker. They were not able to find the cause. Later on that afternoon, it operated again and opened back up.
Okay.
This time, we happened to have somebody close enough that actually witnessed it, and they noticed the wire galloping. What it was, we had some equipment issue that caused some wire to sag and get into another wire, but from the road is just impossible to see.
Okay.
So we were able to clear that up and haven't had any issues since.
Okay.
So. Anything else?
Any questions? Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you all.
Well, Travis, have you done good things this past month?
Well, I hope so. Well,
Yeah.
I guess you all will tell me here in a minute.
Yes.
I think so. For AMI, kind of business as usual. Doing pretty good on inventory. We have current installs for electric, 14,922, 10,524 for water. No, installation numbers have slowed down a little bit. Most of our substation techs have been busy working away at Capitol Plaza substation, so that's a lot of times same crew that'll do the meter install. So doing okay on inventory. They've just kind of shifted priorities a little bit.
Yeah, I
But,
noticed we had like 4 or 5 trucks down there today.
yeah, we're getting pretty close to energizing the second half of that substation. So that job is progressing well.
Yeah.
We're getting close to the finish line on it. But that's kind of the reason for the slower installs. Material deliveries have been kind of, like I said, business as usual. If there's no questions on AMI, I can go right into the SEPA report. Okay. So our SEPA numbers for October can be found on page 115 of the board package. Our total bill was $81,687. A net payment from SEPA, $123,173, for a net benefit of $41,485, which brings us through October of 2023 a net benefit to the board of $962,041 from SEPA. So having another pretty good year.
David, how's that line up with what we thought you'd bring in?
We're on track for the 12-month period so far.
Okay. Any questions for Travis?
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
really don't have anything new report on QME issue. We didn't have a meeting between, so we will have a meeting this week.
Okay. What's on the agenda this week?
It's not, still haven't discussing continually for the next year's rate.
Okay.
That's going to be the big line item I think we were discussing, yes.
Okay.
But on the way, they are continue prepared proposal new gas plant. That's going to be also
Will that be on this week?
Continually
Okay.
Discussing. I don't have any new progress
Okay.
report on that either.
Okay.
Most likely holiday season and everything else, most likely going to be the January sometime.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, next thing is the safety report. JD.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Safety report starts on page 119 through 120. For our OSHA recordables for the month of November, we did have one from our administration employee. Sustained a minor fall. Employee received medical treatment, returned back without any restrictions, but they received a prescription medication that knocks into the OSHA recordable category.
Okay.
And then on our vehicle accidents, both from our electric division, a deer decided to run out and strike one of our foreman's trucks. So I guess he liked it. And then one of our call trucks actually clipped mirrors with a parked vehicle, but no injuries or significant
Good.
property damage on that.
Who won, the deer or the truck?
We actually won, sir, in that
Is there-
case. I would say so.
Okay.
Who got the deer? I believe that would be to the roadway, sir.
Is
The
it?
road is still on the roadway. For some reason, the deer like our vehicles.
Yeah.
So, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Thank
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, next is the superintendent water distribution.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, board members. The water distribution monthly report is on pages 121 through 123. We had one new install, we had 2 main breaks and 2 outages, so the main breaks have really slowed down. I'm sure we may not be saying that in a couple months when the temperatures drop, but we'll take it when we can get it. Besides the normal board report, we completed the new fire main installation at Walter Todd. We completed the line relocation project at the new county garage. And something I don't talk about a whole lot, the water monster that we do at community events. Since September, we've had that out 11 times in the community. So the last was the Frosty 5K. So it stays pretty busy on the weekends and stuff. So we have to spend time getting it ready, and then the weekends getting it out to the community. So, but it's very appreciated.
Well, I remember when y'all brought it out of storage, and it's really gotten popular.
Yes, it has. Yep. So that's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, next is the water treatment plant, Brandon Superintendent.
Good afternoon, everyone. For the month of November, the water treatment plant treated 224,234,000 gallons of water. for an average daily production of 7.47 million gallons per day. Lock 4 averaged 854.6 cubic feet per second for an average of 552 million gallons a day. And there were 1.7 inches of rain recorded in the watershed this month. You have to answer any questions if you got.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. General Manager?
No, thank you.
Action items. Item 5.1, consider award of RFP 2023-4 for in-service wood pole inspections. Travis. And this is the handout we have here?
Yes, sir, it is. The handout, the kind of last minute, we opened this RFP, we got the results in last week, so we were kind of, again, putting everything together last minute. But yeah, so your handout here is the results of RFP 2023-4 for the in-service wood pole inspection. To advertise the bid, we followed our normal process. We advertised publicly and sent it directly to potential bidders. We received only one response, but after reviewing the bid response, we think the pricing's in line with what we expected. We think despite the low number of results, we think it's a good result. So the wood pole inspection program, it's kind of a twofold project. Over the past several years, I'm sure everyone has noticed, we've really been hit by some windstorms, especially the one this past year. So the intent here is getting out and finding those wood poles that are about to fail before they fall and hit the ground. That's priority number one. And also finding those poles that are starting to decay but are not too far gone. We want to try and remedy and treat those poles while they're still in the ground. So that's the intent here. The way we structured the contract is a 2.5 year process. Since we're kind of halfway through this current bid year, we originally thought 3 years, but we're shortening that up to 2.5 years. So on the pricing sheet, the year one cost for visual inspection, partial inspection, full excavation and treatment, and there'll also be some excavate and reject poles. The expected total is $83,569. The reason I say expected total, part of it is going to depend on what exactly we find when we approach the pole. So a pole may be a visual inspection, it may be a partial inspection. We're kind of taking a best estimate at those numbers, but Osmos is who we're recommending for award. Again, that was our only respondent. They've been in the business for many, many decades. They do work for several of the munis. They just finished up Bowling Green's pole system, so they've been around a long time. Lots of the munis, the bigger co-ops I'll use, everybody kind of uses Osmos. They're the expert in the field. So this program is included in the current electric budget. We budgeted $210,000 this year. Obviously, like I said, we're a little late getting started, but we're going to be well within budget.
So when you say it's 83 this year,
correct,
then will that be next year? We have a full year, and that would be how much?
Probably about double that. It would be
so about 160.
Yeah. So we've scheduled about 2,000 poles this year. Want to try and get 4,000 next year, 4,000 the year after that. That'll get all of our about 10,000 wood poles that we own that we have electric attached to.
And the 2010 was for just this year, or was it for the entire project?
We had originally budgeted 210,000, thinking we'd get about 40% of our poles.
Okay.
That would have been if we had started a little earlier. Again,
okay.
we're a little bit behind, but 210,000 was assuming we would get that 40%.
Okay.
Looks like we're going to
we're
probably
get about 20% instead. So
yeah.
okay.
So yeah. So our budget number I think was pretty close. It's just we're going to inspect a little less this year. Yeah.
So for next year, then David, when this comes before us for next year, we'll be budgeting maybe 160 as opposed to 210, but then we'll also have to carry it into the third year.
Correct. And while we're on the subject of budget, we'll probably need to look at our capital budget, how many poles we're going to need to replace. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a big one, but again, it needs to be done. So if they go out and they find, 400 poles that are, 300 poles that are in fact reject poles, we're going to have to do something with them. So.
Based on what you read about or experience or industry standards, what level of failure do you expect or replacement?
Yeah, so that number, the 300 of the 2,000 is kind of our best guess right now that are going to be rejected. So it may be, we could be looking at as many as 300 poles that we find between now and July that need to be replaced. Honestly, that's just kind of our best guess right now. The next few months, once we get started, we're going to have a much better idea. And when we start doing budgeting, we'll be able to refine that number quite a bit.
And just rough, what's a pole replacement cost?
A new pole is about $400 or $500. You figure another $500 to $1,000. Russ, does that feel about right? $1,500, just kind of average. It'll be, plus or minus that, depending on what all's attached to it, if it has transformers or transmission. But yeah, probably somewhere in that neighborhood, 1,500-ish is probably going to be about average.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's going to be. It's going to be a big project. We're going to be coming back to the board quite a bit on. Again, the intention is let's find them before they fall. Obviously,
Right.
That's best case scenario. Number two, again, it's kind of cliche, but wood poles just aren't what they used to be. Poles are grown much faster. They also have different treatments now. Creosote is gone. There have been a lot of treatments over the years that have been retired just to EPA standards, what have you. So we're finding a higher failure rate on poles, so trying to get a more structured program, get out in front of it, and really be aggressive about finding these issues.
We've had this conversation before. We've talked about wood poles and steel poles.
Right.
We've got about 10,000, you said, wood poles.
Right.
About how many steel poles do we have? And can any of these 10,000 wood, are they in a position to where we may want to make the switch over? I mean, I know it's a much more expensive proposition to buy a steel pole rather than a wood pole, but over the life of it, is there a possibility there for better economy, I guess?
Yeah, I think we will. One thing we're going to look at is if it's call it maybe a critical pole. If it's got a critical piece of equipment on it, we probably want to go back with steel, or if it's a corner of like a main three-phase line. So yes, I think we want to be targeted in that approach, not just wholesale, replace everything with steel, but yes, I think we need to get more steel or iron poles out there.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
Jason, Catherine?
What's our
Question.
inventory look like right now of poles?
Wood poles, we're doing pretty good. We probably, once we start having those budget discussions, we'll want to think about stocking up. Right now, we're okay. We're able to get wood poles fairly frequently. Steel poles are a different story. They're very difficult to get a steel pole right now. But right now, inventory pretty good. If we start to think we're going to be replacing a bunch of poles over the next year-ish, we'll probably need to start stocking up a little more heavily.
Steve? Okay, so with that, we have the RFP in front of us, 2023-4. Do we have a motion? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's adopted.
Thank you.
Item 5.2, action item, consider award of bid invitation number 1792, semi-annual price contract for water treatment chemicals, January 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2024. Brandon, I knew you'd
your
come back.
wish.
I come.
You got your wish.
I know, I knew you'd come
You
back
got your
strong
wish.
for us. You've
Came
been
through
missing
for
in
you
action,
tonight.
buddy. And
You ask every
That's what I
every
do
month.
twice a
You
year.
ask every
Love it
month.
so much.
I know you got pages full of your stuff.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just-
it's the box is full. This is our semi-annual chemical bid. The bid received 16 reverse auction bidders. After reviewing each bid, staff recommends awarding bid 1792 to the lowest bidders, meeting specifications except for the powder activated carbon, which is based on quality testing.
And for the first time, I mean, we've got some reductions, I mean, just all over the place.
Yeah, last July through December's was kind of the same. This was looking even better. So I think only three went up. Was it 1, 2, 3? Yeah. So
Okay.
look good.
Yeah,
So,
anybody?
one question.
Sure.
Now, the powder activated carbon, is that being tested now? Will we come back with a separate bid for that, or is that included in here as
This
well?
that's included.
Included in
I've
there.
already got all that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any further questions for Brandon? I just can't get over this, buddy. It's just.
Hey, it's working.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second? We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approved. Item 5.3, consider award of bid invitation number 1794, semi-annual price contract for water treatment chemicals, January 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2024. Brandon?
Same thing. This bid received just one sealed bid auction. Staff recommends awarding bid 1794 to Morton Salt. Excuse me.
And they held the price flat.
Yeah, I think they've only gone up once or twice in the last, 10 or 12 years.
Really?
Yeah, it was 11 or 12 cents a pound for years.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Any questions? If not, do we have a motion? We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's adopted. Thank you, sir, and congratulations. Good presentation. Yes, sir. Item 5.4, consider award of bid number 1795, remanufactured pan mount transformers. Jennifer.
Good afternoon. This is the third bid for transformers. We did the two last month, or maybe October, for the pole mount and the single phase pad mounts. This was the 3-phase pad mounts. We ended up going with a bid for remanufactured. The pricing and lead times on the new was still horrible. So we didn't open this bid until Friday, so there's probably limited information. I don't know how much you all got. Okay, did it get in there? Okay, it was Friday before we opened the bid, but we wanted to get it on this agenda because a lot of times they sell what they have on the lot before we can get an order in. So we recommend that it's awarded to Sunbelt Solomon Service in the amount of $416,803.
Have we used them before?
We have used them before. We actually have a contract with them currently to rebuild the ones that we used to surplus, and we've bought remanufactured last year.
And we've not had any trouble with remanufactured?
No.
Any questions for Jennifer?
Yes, it's these are normally kept in inventory, so it's in the electric budget.
Okay. Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approved.
Thank you.
Item 5.5, consider retransmission consent agreements with Scripps Media, Tegna, Gray Media, Nexstar, Morris Network, and Hearst Properties. Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We've got we have agreements with 3 of these groups tonight. The Nexstar agreement is a direct agreement that covers WDKY, which is Fox Lexington, as well as News Nation on classic cable. The increase on WDKY is nearly 25% in year 1 and 14% in years 2 and 3. And while we think these increases are exorbitant, unfortunately, we also understand these are the types of increases that are pretty standard in Nexstar agreements. The Scripps agreement is an NCTC agreement that covers WLEX, NBC out of Lexington. Increase on that is 16% in year 1 and just under 5% in years 2 and 3. And finally, the Tegna agreement is an NCTC agreement that covers WHAS, which is ABC out of Louisville. We currently have a special carriage arrangement with Tegna for WHAS. NCTC has negotiated a side letter with Tegna that will allow us to maintain that arrangement and at the same rates. Staff and the Cable Advisory Committee recommend approving these agreements before you tonight. We continue to work on the remaining agreements, and we'll have more information about them in the near future. The staff attorney has reviewed these agreements. They meet with his approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about this item.
If I can just add, and correct me if I'm wrong, Harvey, 1, federal law requires that we reimburse, that we pay the broadcast networks for their signal that is in the air free, right?
It gives the broadcast programmers the ability to charge us basically whatever they want.
Right. And this is totally a pass-through. We don't keep any of this money.
That's correct, yeah.
We're paying those stations, we're putting it on the bill.
Right.
But we don't keep any of that. It's all just a direct pass-through.
Yeah, whatever we end up, or whatever you guys end up approving through this round, that will become with the retrans surcharge on cable customers' bills.
There was
a
a
direct pass-through.
And I'm going to go back to my time on the Cable Advisory Board, Harvey, several lifetimes ago, when we used to be under the old federal law, which was a must carry. If we could pick somebody's signal up and they wanted us to carry them.
Right.
We had to carry them.
Right.
So that was the reason we were able to do this. They have switched now to this fee, and you used exorbitant, I
Yes,
think
sir.
you said. I'm going to use a different word. People can look it up if they don't know it. Confiscatory is what I'm going to use, is that it's out of bounds. It's, the amount of money that our cable people, that our cable customers are going to be paying for this is absolutely outrageous. And it is, and the broadcasters have such a hold in Washington that this law is never going to be changed, and they're going to continue to just take people, charge money for things that they put out over the air for free and have advertisers pay for. So, and it's the cable companies. And the problem with Frankfurt is there's large swaths of this community where you can't pick up a signal.
Right.
I live in South Frankfurt. I'm not picking up most of these signals. And I know Catherine's probably the same way. Antennas are getting better, but we're still not at the point where we're going to be picking up these signals based on where their antennas are. So we are really, up against it here.
Yeah.
The one, are we going to have to, there was one you said that's not been approved for one of the Lexington stations, or the agreement's not been reached.
Yes, sir.
Will we be able to, I know all these expire at the end of the year.
That's right.
Will we have to have a special meeting to approve that, or do you think we can approve that in January at our regular meeting?
Yeah, I'm hoping to have a clearer picture about that in the next week.
Okay.
I'm hoping maybe we can get an extension through January and handle that at our regular meeting.
Okay.
Again, they drive, the bus with this, and if they're not willing to do that, then
I understand.
we're going to have to
I
handle it
understand.
differently. So I'll keep you guys up to date on where we're at.
And I guess, unfortunately, the second part of this is we're probably going to have to schedule a public hearing at some point to increase, put an increase in through for our tariff, correct?
Yes, sir.
And, at that point, we'll go again and you'll show the charts that the amount we charge to supply cable has stayed the same forever.
Right.
And the amount we pay for programming, both broadcast over the air and with cable providers, has gone up and up and up, and it's a never-ending cliff. So,
Yes, sir.
So
And one thing-
I've said all I need to say.
Well, and I think the other thing that's important for our customers to know is we carry a total of 7 broadcast channels.
Yes, sir.
We
Four
carry
out of
4 Lexington, and the bulk of our viewership is the Lexington channels.
Yes. I'd
But
say
we-
about 4 to 5 to 1.
Yeah, but we carry the Louisville, and one of the big reasons, and I think people saw it Saturday night.
Oh, yeah.
Is we carry the Louisville channels for weather.
Right.
Because people can see the weather from Louisville, they get the alerts. If we waited for the Lexington to pick it up, it'd already be in stamping ground.
Basically here.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
So we carry that, but we're one of the few, I don't know
I
how
don't
many
know of
others.
any other provider, we compete from the video standpoint with satellite and the virtual MVPDs, and I don't think any of them deliver the Louisville stations here at Frankfurt. I
Right,
think FPB
and
is the only
in
one.
fact delivering 7 in total. Because I think a lot of providers only maybe will offer 1 broadcast or 2.
Usually they'll have one from each of the main,
Yeah.
in-market ones, but certainly not the out-of-market ones like we do.
Yeah.
And as I said the last time we dealt with this, 7 may be a luxury we may not be able to keep anymore.
Right.
So, that's the other thing too. But I've always had of a mind I want to keep one Louisville
Yeah.
station if we can, just for that reason more than any other. So,
this tonight, we'd be getting one
right,
locked down,
Right.
and then we'll have 2 more to
we'll
consider
worry about the
later.
others when we get there.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Any other questions for Harvey? It's just, you look at the rates, and I know there's restrictions that we can only discuss the aggregate amount or publish that.
Right. Yeah, the percentage increases and then the aggregate total.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve. And do we need to approve? Can we approve them all at
I think
once?
just the ones that we have in front. Yeah, I'd rather you guys handle the additional ones because we're not sure where the terms are 100%.
Okay.
So we're just asking for tonight, Nexstar, Scripps, Tegna, those 3.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve all 3 agreements that have been presented to us today by Harvey for Nexstar, Scripps, and Tegna.
Yeah.
Second.
We have a second? And we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Harvey, item 5.6, consider Valley Sports Ohio amendment.
Staff and the Cable Advisory Committee recommend approval of the amendment with Diamond Sports for carriage of Valley Sports Ohio. This is a direct agreement with a term through December 31st of 2024. The increase on rates is 6%. Diamond Sports is currently in bankruptcy. This agreement provides for significant discounts on the rates should they lose any of their professional sports rights. And if they lose all of their sports rights, FPB will have the ability to terminate the agreement. Because of this protection and the fact that it's just a one-year agreement, staff feels comfortable recommending approval of this agreement. Staff attorney has reviewed it, meets with his approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on this item.
And what sports is this?
So this is the Reds.
Right.
The Reds.
The main thing is the Reds. They also carry the Cavaliers, NBA, and the Blue Jackets, NHL. But
Hockey,
the Reds
yeah.
is the main.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions, Harvey, on this one? And it's what, they're asking 6%?
6%, and then it's just a one-year commitment.
Right. Okay. Do we have a motion? Do you have a second? We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's adopted. Consider approving amendment to Fox Cable Network Services Agreement. Harvey?
Thank you, sir. Cable Advisory Committee and staff recommend board approve this. This is a standard NCTC agreement. Amendment for Fox Cable Network Services, extending the term of our existing agreement through October 15th of 2027. Networks covered include Fox News Channel, Fox Business Network, and Fox Sports 1 on classic cable and Fox Sports 2 on preferred cable. The agreement represents programming license fee increases on Fox News of 15% in the first year and then 8% in the 2 years after that. Fox Sports 1 slightly less than that, and Fox Business and Fox Sports 2 less than 10% in year 1 and 3% in the 2 years after that. The increases were budgeted and anticipated. Fox News Channel is the top-rated cable network by viewership in Frankfurt, and this agreement covers 3 more of the top 50 cable networks in Frankfurt. There's no change to the carriage obligation on these networks, and as always, consider the networks as a take-all or have-none scenario, as this agreement does not allow for a la carte purchasing. Staff attorney has reviewed the agreement, meets with his approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on this item.
So bottom line is, you take this package or you don't get it at all, right?
Yeah, you take all of these 4 networks or you don't get any of them.
What can you say? I mean, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's adopted.
Yeah, thank
Harvey,
you.
that was pretty bleak.
Well, you know, this is not my favorite time of year.
Yeah.
For trans time, but yeah, we'll get through it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Item 5.8, I think we're passing over. Is that right, Kathy? Michelle?
I think we got a letter.
Did we get a letter?
It was
Yeah.
at the last minute. but
Okay.
we got
Yeah.
it was emailed.
Good afternoon, Board Chair and members of the board. Yes, on Friday, I did receive an updated proposal from Jennifer from Corn Ferry, and I did send it around for the board to review. However, if you want to table, we can. But it's located on page 183 of the board package.
Okay.
So,
Do y'all want, we got it on Friday, and I know, we normally, discussion, if we get things late, we don't necessarily take them up. What's y'all's feeling? Do you want to take it up, digest it more till next meeting, or what do you all want to do?
Yeah.
We talked about, this isn't a new thing. We
Right.
talked about this at great length. Jennifer was able to come in and talk to us from Corn Ferry, was able
Right.
to come in and talk to us. She's modified her proposal. I think the sooner we get this started, the more likely we'll be ready to have this information ready for when we start doing our budget. So I'm in agreement with Jason. I think we need to go ahead and pull the trigger on it.
Catherine, do you want to consider it?
Yeah, I mean, we all had an opportunity to meet with her
Okay.
and kind of
Yeah.
revise what we
Right.
wanted them to do.
You okay bringing it up, Steve? Okay, so basically, now what's before us is her proposal, which she has reduced it by, 35%
Yeah.
or more since last
Yes.
time?
Yeah.
Now, Michelle, let me ask this, based on what she's proposing, and obviously we don't know what the outcome of the product will be, but based on what she's proposing, the scope of work, I mean, you and I guess David, you've seen it also. Does this give us what we think we're gonna need for the next budget process to evaluate our personnel, our classification system and so forth?
yes, based on the level, it's not a full review, but like she has stated, the HR team will be trained on their methodology, and so we should be able to get the outcome that we're looking for. So yes,
That they will give you the information you need to come back to us
yes,
with what the next step is if the board chooses to pursue.
yes.
Okay. Okay, any questions for Nichelle? Steve?
I want to know what we're looking for.
I'm purely looking at dollars on this, so that I would defer any structural issues to Nichelle.
So I know early on, the board was really concerned about the 2 and 2. So that was one of the questions, is that the methodology that we want to continue with, as well as where are the minimizing of titles, where does our titles and role place in the market, so.
And she, as I understand, because she's doing the big review for state government, and part of her review was understanding that we have classifications that compete with private sector directly.
Yes.
And then we have others that are more generic to the marketplace we're in here, correct?
Yes, so she spoke about, and that's, she did mention in there, referring and referencing Corn Ferry's reference levels. So that's something else that she'll be teaching the HR staff, so we'll be able to do the bulk of it to get our job titles and levels similar to the Corn Ferry, which they have reviewed the states.
And she does quite a bit of utility work, correct?
Yes, correct. Now, she's not on the project, but Corn Ferry,
Right.
the firm, okay, I just wanted to make sure, okay.
But I mean, their firm does a lot of utility work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as far as the state, she's
Right.
not the, okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Steve?
I mean, first of all, I'm not for this, and you can probably tell. We're going to spend $64,000 to give us a recommendation in the next budget that's going to be the same recommendation that was in the last budget. So I don't see the need to spend $64,000 to tell me an answer that I know what the answer is going to be in March. Secondly, none of these studies, I know she said we keep referring to state government, but none of these studies that I've seen emphasize that the Frankfurt Plant Board is probably 70%. The jobs at the Frankfurt Plant Board are 70% like every job in Frankfurt. In state government, at Kentucky State, at the city, at the school system, it's the same job. Yet we push outside of Franklin County when we talk about these things, and that inflates some of these increases. You know, we have linemen who are unique. We have some other positions that are unique. But 60–70% of these jobs are the same jobs everywhere in Franklin County. There's a pool of people that do these jobs. So there's no need in going to try to match KU on some of these positions. But I know like positions are here in Franklin. So $64,000 to spend for that, for me, you know, but that's my opinion, and I understand everyone else's.
Jason, you have any?
Well, I'm kind of still new to the multiple years of back and forth you guys have done around this issue. I think she would get a pretty compelling discussion on it. I think that part of hers was in-house training and sort of helping your staff sort of think about these things in a different way. And I'm always for institutional knowledge and the creation of new ways of thinking about, we'll just all be frank, a very challenging market right now with, you know, labor is definitely driving the boat here. And so if we can make sure that we're kind of on the cutting edge of that stuff, I think that'll help us in the next few years retain people and continue to grow properly and get the right staff. So I'm for it. I don't like Steve, I don't like spending $64,000 on, you know, kind of a research project a little bit, but I think it's necessary. I'm very glad that we had the component where she's going to work with her staff and kind of institutionalize it. If it had just been a deliverable, I'd have a lot more issue with it, but the idea that we're going to get some staff training and really understand how the system works so we can utilize it. I think at the end of the day, it's a small drop in the bucket to a lot of money we'll be spending. I want to make sure we're spending it properly. So.
And honestly, I will be very disappointed if we get an answer. It sounds a lot like the answers we've gotten in the past.
I want something different.
You know, we want something different, and I hope you are too, Steve. And right.
And Steve, I want you to make sure that we push if we're not getting the answer you want, and
Yeah.
you spend this money, make sure you
But,
push
but to
that.
respond to you, I totally understand your logic and your position on this. But I've heard this 6 years, and I've heard this.
And I've only been here 2, so I haven't.
But I know that, I understand your logic
It hits
and
different.
why you would vote for it, so I'm just,
Okay.
I just want my opinion on the record.
Sure.
Well,
That's all.
I'm up for rolling the dice and seeing, but Steve, I do want you to make sure you're engaged, and
I
if
am.
you feel like we're getting the same answer, I want you to push hard, okay?
And I feel good in that, you know, not only did we talk to her, but she came down here on site and spent the time to try to understand kind of I think the environment, everything we're trying to operate in, the frustrations we have with some of the current system and what we'd like to kind of get resolved. And I'm like you, I think the concept of being able to bring some of this in-house, so when we need things updated in the future, we'll have some capacity, I think, you know, has some value. Catherine?
And not only by kind of our revised request, are we pulling in training, but my understanding is we're gonna get the gold standard product.
Yes.
I mean, we can reject using it in the end, but that we'll be getting, a gold standard product, which should simplify if we decide to utilize it, the decision-making processes and quit this little tinkering here and there all the time. With some assurance that she gave us that we can have some local customization to taking into account, which includes, I mean, you know, we've gotten information about if salaries are priority, then it might be the benefits that need tinkering.
And I'd just like to add to that as well. Thanks, Catherine. I think it's important for staff to know that we take this serious and that we really want to come at this in a fair, comprehensive, holistic way, and not sort of, as you said, Steve, tinkering and kind of kicking the can a little bit. So.
And if I may also mention, yes, there is local talent here, but post-COVID, with the option to work from home, when we advertise jobs, they would rather do that. And not all our jobs are capable where you have the eligibility to work from home, but for our customer service, when we're advertising for just the last couple rounds, some of the questions from the applicants was, is this a work from home position? You know, is this hybrid? How many days do I get to work from home? And when we tell them no, you know, this current position isn't set up that way, it's just like, oh, okay, well, thank you, you know, or no, thank you.
But again, to counter what you're just saying, we do not recruit intensively and heavily in Frankfurt as state government those. We do not try to go and steal, if I could use that word in a good way.
Lure. We don't try to lure.
Lure.
Yeah.
Lure. That's the word. Lure state employees here. We don't advertise the benefits that they have here. We don't advertise that it's the same retirement. It's not going to infringe on the retirement. Whether they're tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, it's not going to infringe on where they are in that system. So there are and that's at every, as K-State, state government, city, county, they're all in the same system. No interruption if they move, and if they move back. So I disagree with your pushback that's saying they're aware of this. They working at home too. They are going back to work. And if the money's good and the benefits are good, which they are here, they'll work here. So I push back against your example of that stops someone from getting a job. I just don't think y'all recruiting Frankfurt and state government and all the other entities around to get those people.
I'll throw something in, just from what I'm seeing, because I'm contracting with one of the younger people in my consultancy. Is, man, that work from home, that ability to travel and move around, it is becoming like the gold standard of like they're not interested at all in anything that is going to lock them down and not travel and stuff. So I don't know. It's just a changing demographic for younger people.
I'm not talking about younger people. I'm talking about mid people, 10-year people. That's why I used the retirement as the analogy example. It's not interrupting anyone's retirement to move from state government to Frankfurt Plant Board and back if they do it.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that we have that flexibility.
And that is one of the core things in state government. They try to, not all, but a lot of employees, state employees, move from one agency to the next, trying to pick up money, trying to get their salaries up. This is another option that they could do seamlessly if they knew about it.
Well, and if I remember correctly, the state is also working with them, is that right?
Yes.
So there might be also help, if we have a similar system, it might also create that seamlessness.
They're not trying to put employees in the plan board. And the other thing for me, the bottom line for me is, we're getting ahead of our market in pay. We're getting ahead of our market. And with similar jobs, so when we start talking about 61,000 isn't a lot of money here, it is, it's going to the bottom line. It's going to the ratepayers, and we don't see it in the nickel and dime stuff like that, but it's going to the ratepayers. And it's no need of us sitting here and saying it's not, it's going to the ratepayers. So that's kind of why I'm critical of these kinds of things, especially when I know, again, hope I'm wrong, that I understand the outcome based on my history.
John, any other comments?
Yep.
At this point, does anyone want to make a motion to either adopt this or to pass over it? Do we have a motion?
Steve, you wanna? So moved.
I'll make the motion.
So I'll make a motion.
You have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay. Item 5.9, consider changes to the health plan to add coverage for gene therapy complications. This is something we've had discussions on, what, 2 meetings now?
Yes.
Yes. And I think you now have the answer, right?
Yes. So back in October, the board did approve the exclusion of gene therapy treatment. However, they were interested and asked staff to consider coverage for complications due to gene therapy. So the language that is located in the board package is what would be placed in our summary plan document under the exclusion area. And this language has been approved by the stop loss carrier and will be effective 1/1/2024 if the board approves to add it to the summary plan document, our health plan.
So basically, give me a real-world example of how this would work.
So if anyone was to have gene therapy treatment on their own outside of our health plan, because our health plan will not cover that treatment,
Right.
and they have some type of complication, then our plan will be a covered expense under our plan.
So they have to go to the emergency room for whatever reason? or
Yes,
they'd have some
emergency
other-
room or just any type of complication.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily have to be an emergency type situation. It can be just down the road.
Right.
I don't know, complication.
And the people you talk to are insurance carriers, the stop loss net, they don't see any negative where this is a big problem at all?
Right, correct.
Okay.
Can you, the language that you say is going to be included, that first sentence, am I just reading it wrong, or is it not a sentence?
No, that's why. So this is going to go under the exclusion part. So that's why it's written that way, because it's already known that it's going to be exclusion. So charges for gene therapy services or treatment, regardless whether it's services of treatment is considered or determined to be medically necessary. So that right there, because it's under the exclusion section, is saying that charges for gene therapy, whether medically or non-medically appropriate, are excluded.
So it's an item in a list?
Yes.
That's why it's not a
Yes.
sentence? Okay, but the second sentence
Is
is
what-
going to
However-
follow that item in the list?
Yes.
Yeah, so when it states, however, the medically necessary treatment of any complication of gene therapy service or treatment is a covered expense under the plan.
Okay.
So, and I knew that was kind of confusing, but that's how they approved it, because it's going under the exclusion section of our plan document. But the main part that I'm asking the board to approve is the however the medically necessary treatment of any complication of gene therapy services or treatment is a covered expense under the plan.
Okay, and financially, as far as charges, what might this do?
So it would it would be processed as any other services. So if someone was to have a heart attack and it's a covered benefit, it would be covered. And then stop loss, which if the claim is up to 100,000, stop loss would cover the remaining amount. So it's going to process just like any other covered benefit.
So essentially, this is not costing us anything to make sure the complications are covered.
Right.
Okay.
It'll
great.
pay out just like any other claim.
I know
Thank
this
you.
was an item, Steve, you'd asked some questions. Do you feel comfortable with the answer and the information? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any other questions about it? Or I know, Nichelle, you've spent a lot of time running this down, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. Very appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion's adopted. Thank you.
One
Next one is, don't get to leave yet, do you?
No.
The next one is the Employee Service Awards.
Yes.
This item was budgeted, and Nichelle brought it to our attention. We've had the same amounts in place for
About 15 years.
15 years.
Yes.
And I think you all had put forward that we probably ought to look at making updating those amounts.
Yes, and
So-
including 30 years.
And 30 years.
Yes.
So, John, I know you've taken a look at this.
Yeah, we kind of banter back and forth. I talked a little bit with Steve about it, specifically, and, I understand that we want to reward longevity. We want to reward people that have been here a while and have a commitment to the agency. Right now, for the most part, the current awards break down to essentially about $5 a year.
Mm-hmm.
What I'd like to propose, and I'll make a motion, or we could throw it out there. I won't make a motion yet in case other people want to change it. I would be of a mind to kind of move that just to like $10 a year.
Mm-hmm.
So if people have been here 5 years, we get $50 instead of 25, and so on, and include that for the 30 years of service, up to $300 for 30 years of service once you get that 30-year anniversary. I think, that's a really pretty small price to pay for someone who shows that kind of loyalty to us as an organization and to us as an agency. And I think it's an increase with a nod to it. And what we probably need to do is figure out if we want to, where we want to go in the future, and make sure we don't go another 15 years without revisiting what these amounts are and figure out what the appropriate levels are in a more timely manner. So my thought would be to make it essentially just $10 a year for those in those 5-year increments. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts or not.
So we're looking at we're currently using about $5. This would take it to 10.
It would take it to 10, yes.
I think that amount certainly is within the budget amount, isn't it, David?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. It's in the scope of the budget. It's relatively minimal.
Yeah. So I guess the question is, we have the service awards. The question is, do we want to continue them? And if we continue them at this level or an increased level, we've got $10 out there. If anybody wants to make, any different motion or a different thought, kind of throw it open here.
I'm just gonna say, I hate to be Scrooge, I know it's Christmas. I'm sorry, I just can't wrap my head around these. I mean, first of all, the first one that was in the budget, David, I mean, I'm not sure if anyone knew about those that y'all had out here.
Well, Mr. Mason, we do have a line item budget that has every expense itemized in our budget.
Did you highlight to us that it was going in sometimes fourfold in increases?
This was a decision from HR that.
Okay, well, but still, it was in the budget.
Yes.
And that is a very significant change that kind of went by my head anyway, and I know I'm sitting there asleep sometimes, but it went by my head. So I mean, when I said to you 5 years ago about I want to see what you show me the house, the budget, but you never really you don't show me what's inside the house. This is the perfect example of something inside the house that I've been able to see from my vantage point where I'm looking at it. As it relates to this, I'll go back to my prior conversation. There are so many benefits here that no one else has seen, gets, or no employees in Frankfurt envision. The retirement award, again, no one sees those awards. The, this award that was proposed, and it, quite frankly, what's even here. All these things hit the bottom line. And it's hard for me to vote for that. The 3-year average on salary increases. Just a 3-year or company-wide average. All those things hit the bottom line, and I can't in good conscience vote for those kinds of things. It's totally out of line with Frankfurt. It's totally out of line with the ratepayers, and the ratepayers will pay these things. So again, I know I'm Scrooge today, and maybe Scrooge all the time, but that's just my point.
Jason, you have any thoughts on?
I've already taken up with Steve once today. No, I'm good.
Kathy?
Well, I appreciate Mr. Snyder's proposal of the $10. I know Mr. Mason's point is broader than this particular one, but it's an example, and it's a good, at least for me, it's a good, reminder to, maybe look more thoroughly and see what's behind some of those line items in the budget. But as far as for this, compared to what was originally proposed, and actually, if you look at it, if you did the $10 a year, it's in line with what the proposed increase for a 5-year employee, 10-year employee. But then after the 15-year, and it really ramped up.
Yeah.
Ramped up. I'm comfortable. Again, I've read what HR folks and companies are saying, which is to zero in on salaries and maybe look at revising benefits. And nobody, I don't think, is going to pass up a job here or leave because that service award is not what was originally proposed. So we are increasing it. But I don't think anybody's going to leave because we're not increasing it as much as what was proposed. So I'm very comfortable with the a $10 a year proposal.
And I was just kind of kidding earlier, Steve, sorry.
No, I'm good. I know you got to get out of this building, so.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the $10 is reasonable, given that we were looking at it. I agree with you, we have a very comprehensive package, but at the same time, some of these things, to me, it's a small amount to show that we appreciate our staff.
Yeah.
And in the big scheme of things, it's a very small amount. I mean, over here making multi-million-dollar decisions. But also, I would hate to think that a staff who's at 24 years and it's like, hey, I'm going to get a little something, and then suddenly we're the ones who yank the rug out. It's kind of expected, and once you built an expectation, it's hard to take that back away without a really good reason.
LRC.
What's that?
Got to thank you.
So yeah, I'd say if we are going to shift it, 10 makes sense. I was looking at this kind of logarithm here, if that's the right word, and it's not quite consistent. So at least that would bring a consistency.
Yeah, this is more of a flat line instead of a asymptotic curve.
And then
so
when Gary hits 50 years, we'll expect you just do the math.
So, Mr. Chairman, then after this discussion, then I'll go ahead and put that in a motion that we set the amounts for the service award at $10 per year in $5-year increments. Award them on that 5-year schedule from 5 to 30 years, with an award of $10 per year.
Okay. We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion's adopted.
No.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Next one is item 5.1. I'd sent you all some information previously that we basically have a proposal. As you know, we've hired a firm to help us with legislative issues in the 2024 General Assembly, and we have a recommendation to engage the firm Run Switch to provide communication services to the plant board as it communicates with the customers, regional stakeholders, media outlets, and key policymakers. They'll basically write content to various platforms offer strategic advice on messaging, and advise the FPB and its lobbying team on arguments that will be, resonate with various audiences. The service time shall begin December 11th, 2023, and extend through April 15th, 2024. The fee for that is the fee of $39,500, and to be paid in monthly increments. So, and Kathy's back there. If you want to ask her any questions, I think she's looked at it. Gary's looked at it. I think, Jason, you were in on the discussion the other day on the conference call because only two of us could be in there where we discussed this some. This is the proposal. I mean, it's a significant sum. This issue is extremely important to our ratepayers, to this agency, and to our employees. And I think this gives us the opportunity to get our information out there as to our concerns and the impact that it have on this agency. So I throw it out there for any discussion that anybody wants to have or questions.
I think I'm playing a little bit of catch up on this one.
Mm-hmm.
So I would appreciate.
Is Kathy back there? Okay.
I don't know if Jason, maybe you could give some insight.
I'm sad to say I'm playing catch up too. You mentioned a conversation. And
Yeah.
I've renovated a kitchen since that conversation.
Okay.
A little skewed. Yeah, remind me once again how the structure works.
Okay. I tell you, why don't we do this? Why don't we, for Kathy to come back in, let's go on and move to item 5.12. Let John discuss that, and then when Kathy comes back, she can.
That's fine. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, 5.12 is exploration of future energy needs and options. I've had some conversations with Gary. As you know, certainly, and as most of the members of the public know who've been paying attention, that we've recently tendered a notice to Kemia that we would no longer be an all requirements member, and that essentially started a 5-year window where we have to start that disengagement process. I think this affords us some opportunities. I think the 5 years affords us some time where we can do this, and we've already contracted with GDS to help us negotiate through some of these things. In speaking with Gary, I think the time is ripe for him and Travis and some of our staff to get with the GDS and spend the next year or so to just kind of see what's out there, see if we can get some sort of an agreement, sort of a mini IRP where we could get something in place, because 2029 we're going to have to worry about this. This is going to be on us to do, and we're going to have to do this. And I think if we spend the next several months to a year or so looking at this situation, see if there's anybody who will give us a proposal that locks in some sort of a rate in 2029, and Gary seems to think, and I'll let Gary talk a little bit more about this as well. Gary seems to think that rate we can get, it's not unreasonable to think we might be able to get a rate that's going to be significantly cheaper than what we're paying. So, especially what we'll be paying in 2029.
Right.
So, Gary, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, or
Sure,
if I've
definitely.
encapsulated our conversations properly.
I appreciate you bringing up this, and to us is we have a little over 5.5 years total time, because May 31st, 2029 is the time.
Yeah.
Typically, we need to do a little earlier than that. You don't want to rush to the last minute, force ourselves into some deal we don't want to. So the idea, I think Ms. Snyder talked to me, is the total 5-year window, can we wisely use that, particularly if in the high level we divide like a half, the first 2.5 years or less than 3 years, let's try something. But what do we mean try? Probably because we are a public agency, even we may not require to go through the bid, but this is such an important issue. I think we want to make the process as clean, as transparent, as anything we can hold the overall process integrity together. So we do need to have a bid process. Our consultant, particularly Travis, me, and David, we talk a lot. Do we have something? If you, on the direction for you want us, then we can. Travis already prepared that, started, have some draft sent out for the many agencies as we know the company potentially can be the one give us a firm price. Then we select a partner in the beginning based on what kind of capability and also what kind of commitment they would like to try. Then use the next 2-year window in couple months to finalize that. But it's your decision, choose a partner. But once we have a partner selected, then the next 2 years, the partner will give us, based on the target price, see they can firm up everything. Then give us firm price we like to have. Then in that time will be the final agreement entered by the board if you choose to.
And in that time frame, even before 2029, we have other significant contracts with KUMA that will be expiring. And when those expires, we'll have to make a decision how to fill that energy need, like the big rivers.
Yes,
When it comes up.
KUMA have to make a lot of decisions. We are all requirement member of KUMA, at least until all the way to May 31st, 2029. And I think you are absolutely correct. There are a lot of decisions I have to make. If at the end of the day, 2 and 2.5 years, either the partner cannot provide the firm agreement, or you choose do differently, then we can walk. But mainland is we do want to take seriously, choose a partner, which is must be capable to deliver, and all considerations include the reliability, transmission, including the future concern about renewable, all should be on the table. But bottom line, as I know, you care most is the rate. What's the impact long term to us? So with the idea whether we want to like to is a firm price, is something predetermined we can all the party can count on. So that's kind of the idea. Is issue RFP, burn the partner back to you, then with the consultant help, we can narrow that down, choose a partner in few months, then let a partner say they can finalize all the things we need to do, then provide some certain guaranteed price, firm price. Then in front of you, you make a decision. That's kind of the idea we talk about it. At least we want to wisely use like 5.5 years.
Right.
If it didn't work, we still have half the time. We can try all different routes. We can enter different partner, or we can enter those things ourselves. For example, we can lock transmission capacity, everything else we name, including energy. Then we have a final portfolio. What I hope is we don't have to do that, because there are a lot of risks we have to take when we go there. Because every decision we make is always going to be questioned, is our right decision? I wouldn't say it's like a time the market, but sometimes it is. The energy changes all the time. Then always question, is our right decision? In my life, I've been done that, so I always question that myself. But it's no way to know that, be honestly. We all say, oh, that's a very good price, let's come in. But turn around and wait, the price change. I really hate to see that, because we are not in that game.
So by going forward here, we'd be out there, in fact, testing the market.
Yes.
We wouldn't be required to act it. We wouldn't be required to accept it, but we'd at least know where we are and what the options are and where we go from there, correct?
We go through the RFP, select a partner. But when we select a partner, it's like make a commitment.
But we don't have to select. We get the RFP, then
Yes,
we can
you
make a
don't
decision
have
whether
to.
to select or not select.
You don't have
Right.
to, yes. But if you choose a select partner, which is the partner wanted you to do that too, because it's a two-sided commitment. The 2-year window is not like we're going to change another partner. It's a 2-year window, whoever we select, if you choose so, then in that 2 years, they can firm up all the commitment they talk
And,
about.
and these partners, when we put the IRP out, they know this isn't new. This is something other people do, other agencies do. The folks we're gonna test the waters on, they know this, and they're gonna be able to come up with a plan for us. They understand the end goal is for us to have some sort of a firm price for a certain amount of time. And we understand, and the first conversation you and I had when I was appointed to this board is, you pay for certainty in this realm. I mean, you can play the market if you want to, but if you're going to pay for if you want certainty, it comes at a certain price, and it's what is your level of risk you're willing to take. We've been pretty conservative on this board, so I think it's an option that we need to start exploring, and I think the one thing we do have on our side is we have time right now. And if we have time to start this process, I think we've got a time, hopefully, to come up with something that will serve us in good stead when 2029 rolls around. That's just my thought. And I don't know, Gary, if you feel like you need a motion from us for a.
If okay with you, Travis work on the detail. Me and David, hopefully, our consultant will help us too. We issued RFP on your behalf, but in the process, let's say 2-3 months, whatever, how long. Then see how many proposals we got in. Then that's the time you're going to have one thing or another in front of you to say, do we want to choose partner? If any partner you're willing to say this is got all the capability, and also they are willing to really lock down something for us. Then we enter the agreement. Really, just the agreement is a partner to give them 2-year window. Maybe sooner, hopefully, but lock down everything they needed, put all the everything in, then have a final agreement in place in front of you. Then once we do that, those usually take multi-years. We want 5-7 years.
Do you want the board to take a formal action and direct you to put that RFP out?
RFP out, yes.
Okay.
I don't know if there are any more questions.
Any more
other members
questions
have
for
any other
Gary about-
questions or?
I do have a question,
Yeah.
and I do agree with we need to do it. I don't particularly like talking about all of this right now, but the question that I have is, what goes in the RFP? Because I know there are people with a lot of interest in solar, a lot of interest in other things, and if you bring back an RFP, results of an RFP that doesn't necessarily get the components right. So I'm not sure if you may want to delay this and have a discussion.
We will.
The board individually.
Yes,
to see
we
what
will have the before RFP we send out. We will share with you. Number one. Number two is you mentioned that before. What I hope I want you to know that, right, is like a choice in front of you.
Right.
To say this proposal can be 30%, 40%, 50%, 100% renewable.
Right.
But then you have a price tag for each one. Then in front of you, this whole community eventually say, you choose anything you want to. Instead of we predetermine what if that makes sense.
More along the lines of a menu of options as to how far we want to go in terms of renewable, length of time, those sorts of things. Yeah.
Hopefully we have the partner can provide those, say there's a need from this community, then in front of you, you can make a decision based on that, the proposal number, then this is what's the best to our community. If that makes sense to you. But we will share with you all that before we send out it. Is a more eventually from the partner self. How much they willing to.
Do you think you'll have before you what you send out, do you think do you feel comfortable that you have a copy of that to share with us by the January meeting or not?
I think so. That's more Travis. I will.
If not, if you all work on it, bring it to us in January or February.
We hope it's
whatever your
early
schedule.
Share with you. Soon we have it. We share with you.
Sure.
Then we say give us any direction you want
We'll
us to.
So we'll do that.
if we can get a motion to direct Gary and the staff to put together a draft RFP to bring us at the next board meeting if possible, or
As soon as they get together.
Yes.
So, yeah, I would make that motion, Mr. Chairman, to have the staff draft an RFP for a plan for energy needs starting
bring
in
it back to the
2020.
board before
Bring
we
it back to the board at the earliest possible convenience.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's adopted. Ms. Lindsay, we were talking about the proposal submitted by Run Switch. And could you talk a little about what they would do and how that would interact with you and what you're working on?
Okay, sure. My team, the marketing and communications team, has been working on a communication strategy for how we're going to deal and really educate the public about what's going on with the proposed legislation and how it might affect FPB, but our community as a whole, including their rates. We do have other jobs. We have full-time jobs, and everybody's really busy. So this is so important that we think it's important. We agree that it's time to bring in somebody else to help lead that conversation. And these guys know what they're doing. We're in the midst of, we still have crews that are out, covering sports games and doing contracts and all kinds of other stuff that we do on, just our daily job. This is something that really needs focus. We might have, people who don't think we should spend money on that, but I'm telling you now, this is the moment for the Frankfort Plant Board. This is, I feel like it's our responsibility as employees, it's your responsibility as a board. Our mission is to protect our ratepayers, and that's long term. We want to look at, things that are going to happen to our customers that are going to affect their rates and affect, not just today, but in the years to come. And when we see something that's going to be detrimental to our rates, to our customers, it's our responsibility to do something about it and to make the community aware of what's going on, to get them involved. And now's the time to bring in somebody who can really help us do that. And that means that they'll be running a communication strategy. They'll be helping our team let us know, things that we need to be doing, making the connections that need to be made, looking at different angles, the way that we could be making our messaging more clear. Again, figuring out timing on when we need to get messaging out, who that messaging needs to go to, and these, who we're looking at right now with Run Switch, they are one of the best in the state, and I think we would really benefit from their assistance because, again, the rest of us, we're very committed to getting this job done. It would just help if we had some help. And again, that's how important it is to this company and to this community. And happy to answer any questions. I have not specifically talked to anyone from Run Switch, but I know their reputation and I've seen the things that they've done in the past.
And it is a professional contract. We did talk to Hans. It's under our small purchase. It is a professional contract, so if we want to enter into it, it's the contract's in front of us if we want to go that route. I've been in some meetings with Kathy. I think you all know it's going to be a lot going on. The time frame is very, very compressed. And the General Assembly starts the first week in January. There's just a lot of work to be done, and this is going to be real important to this country, to this company, to this community, and to our employees. So, anybody has any further questions for Kathy, or?
Go ahead.
What was the pricing again?
$39.5
For that?
total, from now until the end of mid-April.
Sorry, 39.5?
Yeah, so it'd be divided by, what, 4? January, February, well, yeah.
They're getting, monthly.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 39,500.
Yeah, so about 10,000 a month.
It's like 3,900. Oh.
Yeah, no, 39.5, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just make sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so about 10,000 a month.
Yeah.
So, one, I would have felt better if you had talked to them, so you could like really see how.
And they offered to come.
How
You know, I sent you all a
No, I
memo
know,
if
I know
everybody
that,
wants. Yeah.
but I mean
Yeah.
Kathy personally sit down to see, because I really have utmost faith in you.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I would not recommend it if I didn't think that.
Well, so that's also, you know, with factoring in, I'll be honest, I wish it wasn't 10 grand a
Yeah.
month. We're spending money with a lobbyist already,
Yes.
and we did not cheap out on that.
Right.
So it's a little bit of a, I don't know. It's not striking me great to then for them to then recommend an even higher price every month for another person. So I don't like it, but I don't like the whole thing.
Right.
I don't like that we're having to do this.
Right.
And it angers me that we're having to spend the money
Yes.
this way. But I get it. We're in a fight, to be honest. And ultimately, the fight is to protect our ratepayers. I just hate that we're in this fight. But if you're saying y'all can't do it, and our lobbyist is saying that this is necessary to get the end result, and you know, and I don't want to just stop and only go halfway if somebody has told us that we have faith in that you're not going to get to where we need to get unless we now do this. I just wish we weren't having to do this.
I think we're all on that page. It's unfortunate that we are in this situation, and again, it comes down to this is our responsibility at this time as we're looking long term for our customers and the future of the plant board of this community. You know, because we see the implications of what could happen if this thing succeeds, and it's not good. And so we think the best thing we can do is just to come out hard from the beginning.
Yeah, and I get that, and I'm going to placate myself thinking that also, not that you'll necessarily need more training or anything, but that it can be carried forward, and we don't know what fights in the future, but I'm hoping that this will help sort of.
I think we've already learned a lot. Our team's already learned a lot in the last month.
So, you know, hoping we can stick with the 4 months.
Sure.
And not need it after that, even if we still have more fight to fight.
We will definitely have a playbook in hand, I think, by the time this is over.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that. I mean, we're facing an existential threat to the plant sports mission. And I would say some of the articles I've read out in the public, in the State Journal, and other places are making some pretty broad statements about what we are that may not line up with the reality of what we are. So I think we have to go on the offense to reframe for the community what we are, what purpose we serve. Because that's the thing about a utility. If you're doing your job right, they don't think about you much.
Yeah.
The light stays on, the internet stays on. And when they start thinking about you, that's usually because something's not working. You know, so sometimes people can get a little just, oh, of course the plant board will always be here. So I think I really appreciate what you're doing, Kathy. And we are being forced at this time to take a stand to restate the plant board's mission, what it's done in its long history, and really what its purpose is. So I'm glad we're holding back on that.
And I know Kathy and her team and Gary, I mean it's, and I see some of the traffic, I mean it's every night, all weekends. I mean, they're putting in unbelievable amount of hours and, to work on this. And, I think you saw the State Journal survey. I mean, 87% of the people in this community, I think, want the plant board to stay. And it's an important issue. But the issue doesn't end in the middle of December. Unfortunately, it's going to start in earnest here soon, and it's not over till the last day. So,
budget-wise, how are we doing with this?
This is not a budgeted item, so this can be handled a couple of different ways. And on the financial statements you have in your board packet through November, you can tell that we're better than expected on revenue compared to budget, and we are below 5% or $2.4 million through the 5 months on expenses. So we could find another line item in here that you all would like to replace, or we can acknowledge at this point in time we're doing better than expected and just add this as a budget amendment due to this existential threat in front of us. Whatever the board would like to do.
So, I guess the question is, do we want to, do we need to address both the budget and the contract at this time, or the budget at a later date, or?
I think the easiest thing, if the board wanted to move forward, would just make it a budget amendment to add this as an expenditure. We've never had to do this before, and I hope we never have to do it again.
Right.
So this
And
would
we
just
certainly
be-
didn't think we were going to be doing this in July.
No.
So,
Can we just let this float, like on the budget, let it float until we get a better sense of, I mean, we may find that we only need 2 months of this contract. We may determine that we need more. So if we could just let it float until we get a better sense of
But
what this is shaping up to be.
my understanding though is it's a 4-month contract.
It's a 4-month
It's not like we
Yes.
can just
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
pay
Yeah.
monthly.
yeah,
So it's a,
No.
no.
There's always maybe the possibility that we can try to go back and negotiate a lower rate, if that's something y'all would be more.
I think the right. I mean, I guess not. It's more the philosophical
Yeah.
than the actual exact amount. But to confirm, it's a 4-month contract. So if somehow we get into January 15th or something, and this seems to dissolve, this issue seems to dissolve, we're still kind of locked in.
I mean, I think when we're talking about proposed legislation, when you're talking about bills and amendments
for the
and
entire
conference committees and everything else, when it's sine die is when, yeah, even when they come back and veto override, they can pass bills on those days. It, you know, and I mean, I've had the same concerns that I know y'all have, and I've thought about if somebody says, why are you spending this? And I guess if the impact to our ratepayers is significantly higher bills, not just some, but significantly higher bills from now on, then should we tell our ratepayers, should we be able to tell our ratepayers and our employees and the people who've built this company for 80 years that we did everything we could to give them the information? Because ultimately, it's not our decision. I mean, it's people different from who's in this room who's going to make the decision. And what this is about is to go to those people and say, this is a major decision and it will have adverse impacts, and give them that message, as opposed to someone saying, well, you didn't tell me, I never knew that. I mean, I think the information's out there, but I think it's important that people know to communicate that this is big, and it's like anything else. Once, if you go down a certain path, there's no coming back. So.
And again, you know, we will be doing a contract with them. We can put in the contract language that says, you know, with written notice, we can end with written notice. We can have them come in and meet with me this week.
And they were, like I said, they were willing to come today and make a presentation, and we certainly could have done that.
Yeah.
So if we pay it twice as much, will it be twice as effective?
Is that?
Is that how that works? Not wrong, is it?
Well, thank you, Kathy.
But we could do it, like I said, we could do a term of 4 months with language saying, and I think it's standard language saying, you know, with written notice, we get it in sooner.
That would be great, yeah.
And as I understand it, the proposal is that this is a full-in contract, that it's whatever it takes, and this is it. This is the cap. If it's more than that, it's not coming back for, we need a little more, I mean, this is it.
Yeah, it's capped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it because I'm someone
Yeah,
else.
yeah, okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Pass. Okay. Contract's approved. Thank you all. I think it's a tough issue, so. The last issue is thanks Kathy. The last item is item 5.13. As you know, KMUA, which we were members of, is basically dissolved, or in the process of dissolving. Kentucky League of Cities has put forth a proposal. They've met with, basically, Gary, I guess, with the majority of the members, or all the members of former KMUA, and they're proposing to form, this would be an ongoing relationship, separate utilities division operation that would be part of the League of Cities. And I think what the majority of the former KMUA members are gonna join Gary, or a large part of them? You've got a list on your back.
Former member of KMUA, and this is their new proposed bill.
And this would be cheaper than our KMUA membership, right?
Correct. Our due before is a 33.4. This new one actually is less than 15.
And this would include like legislative tracking, bill
Including
reviews, all the various things. It would cover all three lines of business, right?
Very similar things, yes. We see they propose 50 cents on electric per customer, and 25 cents on the water and the telecommunication and the sewer. But we don't have a sewer, so it's another line of us. But they keep it maximum 10,000 on the electrical. That's a currently proposal. So to us, the total is less than 15. That's currently. I would like to recommend this board to join this group, because stay together with this all municipal is very important. We can learn a lot of each other and support each other in the critical time like now. And also, like you said, the League City have done very good job represented the whole municipal. The JD gave quite a few speech talk on this group. He feels strongly municipal utility is a part of the city. It's a fundamental important part of the city. His word is, without utility, we cannot talk about city. Yes. So I think it's a kind of good match if we can go join it. That's why I bring that up, recommend to you to give me a permission to visit. It's not completely finalized on the due, but that's pretty much the word I heard the last word. Yes.
Is everybody committed to doing this? Everyone on this list?
You mean all the members?
Yeah, have all these people committed to this new venture?
That's what I cannot say. I think, as I know, majority of the major, due payer on the KMUA were all in the group discussing. All of them expressed the same things I've been talking about: is stay together, join together. This is a good match. But Ms. Mason, I can't really speak for individual utility. What's their decision? But the original issue is KLC has a lot of their own legal concern to form this, but they finally work out all their issue. So this is a letter from JD. They would like to formally, and JD also said in the meeting, he said they will represent the municipal utility no matter what. He feels it's a very, very important part of the city, particularly city. It's in line, have the same interest.
The other question is that the dues, it seems that the dues, we switch places with Bowling Green as it relates to the dues. They pay more in KMUA, but we are paying the most in this new venture. They're paying $15,150 and we're paying $18,133.
Well, we won't pay the sewer.
We pay the sewer.
We don't pay sewer.
So that number will go down to $14.78 for us, because they included wastewater that we don't do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And sewer's already represented in a sense because the city of Frankfort belongs to KLC. So their sewer's covered under the city's membership.
Yes.
Does this mean something new? Is KLC going to be doing something new? Like this is going to be, they probably need a new employee or something?
They are going to hire an
Yes,
additional
they are.
employee.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
They going to dedicate a group, hire lobbyists just for this group.
Okay.
At the same time, they do have their own lobbyists to support that.
Right.
And JD made a lot of commitment and
Because he actually came and spoke to he came to, I guess, the final meeting of KMUA?
Yes.
and made the pitch?
Twice, yes,
Yes.
yes.
I would be for this if the major players here are also committed to it. I don't wanna be 5 of us and, you know, 5.
In the beginning, can I say all of them going to be part of it? I heard the major one like us is all one by one, but until the decision, just like you, to make a final decision, is hard for me to say it. I mean,
I'm just
there's
saying
a
that
no.
that I would be for it with the condition. So I'm making up, my thought
Sure.
is
Well-
a conditional approval.
This would be an annual
Yes.
annual dues.
Yes.
So
Just like
here's
KMUA
here's
was.
my thought. If we get into it for a year, if 2
Yes.
years from now we're the only municipal utility in there, which I don't think will be the case.
I don't either.
So
Yes.
if we can make that decision, much like we made that same decision with KMUA last year, to not be a part of that organization before it went away, I think we go ahead and I think it sends a message to. It might send a message to some of the other utilities.
As I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, JD prepared the amount of budget he thought he needed to provide this service.
Yes,
And that amount was then calculated into the dues.
yes.
And if he doesn't, and so he was operating under an assumption of how many people were gonna
Yes.
join. If he doesn't get that, quote, critical mass,
Yes.
then I don't think he's going forward anyway, right?
Correct. I think, I can't really
Right,
speak
but I
for
mean,
him
that's my
either.
understanding is, this is the amount he needed, he then backed into the number, came up with the calculation, and said, this way I can do the service for.
They
Again,
said-
I'm not saying, I'm for doing this.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
just don't want to say that we have compelled Gary to join when only 4 members, I'm exaggerating, only 4 members joined, and we've compelled Gary to join.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's conditional on the majority of the people doing it. From what I
Well-
said, I
Yeah,
know
how
2
do you-
years down the road, it might be 1 or 5 groups in it, exaggerating, but
But
still.
it sounds like KLC won't be doing it if
Right.
those numbers don't add
But
up.
I want to do this, I just don't want to be, I just want to make sure all the other players get in it too. He doesn't have to come back to us, he can make the decision, if you will.
How do you want
Discretion.
to structure your motion?
I would approve our inclusion in this group, giving Gary the option if the majority of these members don't participate, to not go forward.
One thing I do want to talk a little bit, I don't know how to say that very clearly. To this group, include JD or include everybody, we are walking to a battlefield. And it's for all utility municipal, but it's also for us. We are the front burner. I don't know how do I say that right now very clearly. We need all the support we can. I understand your concern. I mean, I will agree 100% the truth is. And I think Ms. Cuban, Ms. Snyder is correct too. I don't think League City can support a whole group by Frankfurt alone. There are no way can cover the cost for them. But I can't speak for them. But his promise is he want to represent all municipal utility in.
Can we make a motion that we are committed to joining the group
Yes.
without going further with the obligation at this point?
My sense is, they're trying to pull this together, and as John's said, they won't pull the trigger on this if they don't have a critical mass to be able to pay for salaried staff, make enough overhead for KLC that it makes sense for them to take this on and their other staff, so I think we're pretty safe just saying, yeah.
I think so
go.
too.
If it firms up like this, let's go for it. With the idea that it is only a year commitment, we can always pull back out, but my sense is we're the big fish in the water, and if we move in that direction, all the other fish will come in behind us in the wake.
And I know I'm simple, but I think we did this about 4 or 5 years ago, or 6 or 7 years ago, if I can remember. And look what we're doing now. All I'm doing is is putting some protection, brakes to stop this if we get in there and 10 more members only get in, and we are the only ones above 15,000 population. I'll use that as opposed to name.
How about this as a motion? What if we authorize Gary to proceed to join Kentucky League of Cities with the caveat that if he determines that in the process that KLC is not going to have sufficient membership to create this new operation, he can withdraw joining the organization.
Well, I like that. Remind me, what is the GM sign-off amount?
Oh, this is,
Discretionary.
his small purchase is 40, so we're way under.
Well, that's right. I think I'd almost amend what you're saying, John, and further say, I trust Gary to make sure that as we move forward, if this thing isn't firming up the way that he wants, that we entrust him to pull us back out that we can give
And I think,
authority.
from what Gary's told me, I think all the, whether it's, I'm just calling them out, not whether, but I think the bigger ones, the Bowling Greens, the Owensboro, I think they're all looking for something to replace KMUA. And there really wasn't a successor agency out there. So the League of Cities, I think J.D. Cheney, said, there's a niche here, and I'm going to try to put together, and he came to KMUA in their waning days and said, are you all interested? I'll put together a plan. And I think he saw a business opportunity and proceeded with it. So, and he's been around a long time.
I've met
so.
JD in the past.
Yeah.
I've always found him a straight shooter.
Yeah.
And somebody who's got good vision. So,
Yeah. So.
I'll make that motion.
You want to make what
you just said.
What I just said? Did you get what I just
I'm
said?
gonna second that.
Okay, and he's seconding what I just said. Okay, we have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Gary, you heard the motion, so you know what to do? Okay, last item, Mr. Snyder.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request permission to call closed session pursuant to KRS 618101C to discuss pending or proposed litigation regarding collection matter, advertising matter, breach of contract matter, employment matter, cost recovery matter, and regulatory matter, and also pursuant to KRS 618101G to discuss specific proposal that if openly discussed would jeopardize the siting, retention, expansion, or upgrading of business.
Gary, who all do we need in? I know we need you, David, the board, Travis, David. Anybody else? And Sharmista needs to be in.
Okay.
Okay, so why don't we we've got a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor going into closed session?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're going into closed session. With those people stay, we'll take a 5-minute break and then. have a motion second. All those in favor out of closed session, coming out of closed session, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're out of closed session. Mr. Snyder?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to direct the staff to proceed as directed in the closed session by the Board of Directors.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's adopted. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second? We have a motion second. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're adjourned.